Alright, it's time we have a discussion. I know I said in my last video that I would be done talking about this, but a lot of you have been sharing some concerning thoughts. To get up to speed, I released a video on Christmas Day talking about the new age verification feature in VRChat, and while the reception was overwhelmingly positive, the comments were filled with different opinions and thoughts, heavily leaning towards doubts and rejection for the new edition. Now, before you head towards the comment section and type something out, I would highly suggest watching the video in its entirety, as I want to make sure that there's no confusion and that we're all on the same page. I have done extensive research to make sure that what's being said is labeled properly. For each statement said in the video, I will display each of them individually in their respective form. Facts and opinions will be shown with the text at the top left on the screen in green and yellow respectively. With that being said, let's start with the main topic of discussion: privacy. A lot of you have expressed the fear of having your information leaked out. I still have zero trust in this process. I don't trust any company with any form of my PII, especially VRChat and Persona, which by the way, I see zero improvement on Roblox. I just don't trust any corpo with my info that is incredibly sensitive. This was bound to be a main point of discussion, as this affects all of us and the damage can be severe if the data is handled improperly. We are talking about sharing your sensitive government information to an organization that is less than 10 years old. As for both VRChat and Persona, both companies were founded in California. With that, they must comply with CCPA and GDPR regulations, as these are legal frameworks governing data privacy and protection for consumers in California and the European Union, respectively. I've linked both set of regulations down in the description below for more information. Failure to comply with these rules by either company will result in hefty fines, especially with GDPR, lawsuits, and huge reputation losses that can, and most likely, lead to closure of businesses. Persona has an addendum required by the CCPA when partnering with any companies, which outlines how they must treat your data. You can read more on their website for additional information, which is also linked below. They are not allowed to sell your data to advertisers in any way, shape, or form. The information you provide to them is solely for the verification process and legal purposes. Nope, sorry, not gonna dox myself, so I'm just gonna stop playing VRChat. Also, it's illegal to verify that way. That's also a good way to get identity theft. I want to clarify this comment real quick. The age verification process is not illegal. This is why there are regulations such as CCPA and GDPR to ensure your data is handled properly. It would only be legal if any of the two companies failed to follow the regulations. There are currently 2 ongoing lawsuits against Persona. The first one is about Persona's failure to disclose its biometric retention and destruction policy upon collecting the information given. Now, I've searched with Wayback Machine to see what their policy used to look like, and it's different than its current state. Back then, their data retention had no mention of a specific amount of time on how long they kept the data, but for the current privacy policy, they specifically mention immediately or up to 3 years, depending on the customer's request. The second lawsuit is from 3 individuals who are going against Persona for using their personal identifiable information beyond its intended purposes. The article mentioned that the data received by their customers is being used to train AI, which goes beyond the process of verifying and is obviously illegal, but I'm not able to properly check the lawsuit as it's locked behind a paywall. Now, something to note for that second lawsuit, while trying to research a publicly available version of the lawsuit, I couldn't find any other website that mentions this lawsuit, besides the fact that it shared the same case number as a 2021 lawsuit from Massachusetts against FedEx. Now, as for Persona's data retention, VRChat asks that Persona must delete your personal information as soon as possible when the verification is done. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to tell if they actually did it, which doesn't sit well with me. I personally believe that Persona deletes our information immediately after receiving the request, as this is specifically requested by the VRChat team. If they don't follow this request, it would lead Persona into big trouble, as they would effectively breach the contract between both from their addendum and the CCPA regulations. If you want to make sure that they don't retain any information at all, you are able to ask Persona personally to delete any information that they have kept of you, thanks to CCPA regulations. This will not affect your verification status in VRChat, and you do not have to be a California resident to request your data deletion. Also, if they don't do it, then just ask me, I'll give them a call. VRChat will receive your date of birth for verification purposes to create a hash, but their FAQ also mentions that they will receive additional minimal amount of personal data. We don't know the specifics of it, and VRChat has not mentioned specifically what it is. This is something they should have absolutely addressed, but we do know for a fact that they do not receive photos of your ID, selfies, and facial scans. This will definitely need further clarification by the VRChat team. Unfortunately, all companies have a possibility of suffering from massive data breaches, regardless of what data they handle. No businesses are safe from it, and it's a constant battle that they have to fight to avoid the inevitable. This is pretty much the same scenario that game companies have been battling with cheaters. It's a cat and mouse game. I am no expert on cybersecurity, so I can't explain the risk and protection involved in trying to remedy this issue, and I do not have the reach to have a dedicated cybersecurity spokesperson to explain the situation to you properly. An American company using government ID to age verify you. It's normally not a company taking your data. Normally, a lot of cybersecurity reinforcement is not applied to these companies, and they lack secure infrastructure, making it an easy target for hackers. That's what I'm most worried about. Companies neglect cybersecurity in the US because it's expensive and there isn't great standards/laws enforcing the best practices in the US. I am a cybersecurity major in college, and what I've said is the number one problem with most companies. And normally, it's not the ones that have had a breach, because they learned how expensive the lawsuits are. It's the fresh off the block, inexperienced companies that are targets. This person here said it well, and they make a fair point. Here's a slide showing Fortune 500 companies affected by breaches, illustrating how even the biggest players face risks. Additionally, I've also included a list of the 26 biggest data breaches in the US history on screen. No one is safe from it. It's a step in the right direction, but the solution is messy because the problem is messy, with so many legal differences from place to place. Security versus privacy is a razor-thin line to walk upon. No one works for free, so someone has to pay for this service somehow. If the cost is not passed to the end user and is free, then the user is a product in some form. Is the verification service tied to their premium subscription package? VRChat's age verification is not locked behind a paywall. It is freely accessible to anyone who plays the game. Now, having such a service has a cost, but the company relies on investors' money and, of course, VRC Plus subscriptions to be able to fund the ability to make the game a safer experience. The hash that is created during the process does not contain any personal information. It is simply a string of characters that gets created which cannot be reverted to display any personal information. Now again, I have no clue on the logistics of what would happen if someone were to acquire such a hash, so I'm not going to speak on it, but you can read more about it on this picture taken from the FAQ. Artificial intelligence has been rapidly evolving beyond our initial expectations. It has become a remarkable tool to help us in our everyday life. From being able to help out with homework, to answering questions that Google would not give you the result you want, it's something that we didn't know we needed until it hit the market, As much as we, as individuals, weren't ready for it, businesses shared the same issue. We still don't fully understand how it works and its capabilities, but bad actors will inevitably take advantage of the capabilities to bypass restrictions that weren't previously possible. One recurring theme that's been affecting the age verification system is the alleged use of AI-generated IDs to successfully verify themselves. Great video! One problem that I heard might be people making AI-generated pictures of government IDs. I've heard of it working, but just from rumors. I think a follow-up video might be helpful. It's actually kinda horrible. I have some friends who obviously don't trust VRChat with any sort of personal info. So what do? AI-generated IDs. And it works just fine. No actual human is actually going over these IDs, or any of the sort. It's almost instant. When you put your ID in, they barely really check. You can just fake it. The update sucks. It's not that great, it needs improvement. Now, I have no evidence of this working, besides people mentioning it in the comment. But I can see how one would be able to fake an ID and have it work. One can give a prompt to the AI asking for a realistic form of identification, and it will output a photo. So far, no businesses have systems in place to prevent AI-generated content effectively, but this will only come with time. Persona has been trying to improve its system by training the AI. They have a whole blog post talking about it, which I've linked in the description. They mention that they are constantly training their AI to get better by feeding it information. But, as mentioned within the lawsuits, things aren't always rainbows and sunshine. OpenAI introduced GPT-3 to the public in June 2020, and by January 2023, more than 100 million users registered to use the service. The service can create photos based on prompt, so it's possible for bad actors to use this platform to create fake IDs. As a company that handles government information, we can only hope that Persona is able to work on this issue to reduce and flag the bad actors, since it defeats the purpose of such a system. As such, the users who are usually prone to do such actions are This wasn't much of a surprise. It's the reason as to why we wanted such a system in the first place. Ironically, the people who do this are not safe for work accounts. That comment is not the reason why we wanted such a feature. There is a sizable portion of the player base that is under the age of 18, and we, as adults, don't want to share the same space with them. It's just another case of parents pointing their fingers at anything to justify their bad parenting. So what is blocking them? Just getting their parents' ID? No idea how I got here, but my take is that the problem will always be the parents not doing the bare minimum to make sure their kids don't get unrestricted internet access. For many years, the community has been in this awkward spot where kids were able to freely access content that they shouldn't. And while I understand that it's the responsibility of the parent to make sure that they educate their kids and discipline them, it's hard to do so in a game that is heavily leaning towards the social aspect. There is no efficient way to stop that, but the pros far outweighs the cons of doing such a procedure. With this feature, it will prevent a large majority of kids from accessing content that they should not be able to witness. I understand that it's not easy for a parent to control all aspects of the internet of their child in this era. We don't talk about the time I was playing Call of Duty as a kid. VRChat is not like any other game. It's a place where people hang out, chat with friends, play games, etc. With a virtual reality headset, there's a deeper level of immersion compared to a regular game, plus the fact that you can control your character with your own body mimics aspects of real life. As mentioned in my previous video, telling random strangers your date of birth plus the year you were born showed no actual concrete evidence of your actual age. Adding extra steps to ensure the validity of such claims in a simple process puts all parties in a much better spot. Of course, this comes at the cost of kids either making AI-generated IDs or asking their parents to do it for them, which again revolves around bad parenting. Although, If they're caught lying about it, they can easily be reported and then get banned for lying about their age, as it is against VRChat's rules. Since the sample size will be much smaller, they will be easily identifiable and action taken against them will be streamlined efficiently. Another group of malicious individuals that will be caught more easily are the I won't dwell too long on this topic because I've talked about this in many of my previous videos, but there have been many cases of misconduct by these types of people in the past. One reported case that was shown on public outlets was from a Roblox/VRChat user who was arrested and charged for meeting up with a very young individual in 2022. As far as moderation goes, these situations should be happening less frequently, and in the instances that it does happen, actions will be taken faster since, once again, the sample size will be smaller. While the tools given to the community weren't initially efficient, they were improved with time, which should also help for these awful actions. The VRChat community still has a serious problem with PDF files. While verifying IDs helps limit children's exposure to adult content, it doesn't fully protect the children who play the game daily. The platform must prioritize their safety. This person has a fair point. It will not fully protect the children from exposure to these types of people, but that is VRChat's main priority: children's safety. This section will mainly focus on my thoughts based off the feedbacks you guys have given to me about the feature. We'll start off with this comment. I don't want this normalized at all. The game should just be rated M. VRChat is not all about not safe for work stuff. While a lot of the avatars created by the community are often aligned with mature content, the worlds aren't. There are hundreds of worlds that displays amazing craftsmanship and impressive modeling skills by the community collectively. This game has more to offer than just adult content, and that was one of VRChat's main aspects, to let the community create amazing worlds. They poured hours upon hours of their time to give a unique experience to the players, which would be a shame if VRChat set a barrier to prevent a grand majority of the player base to witness such creations. Age gates are completely unnecessary. My main concern at this point is that most groups will switch to age verified even if they're not doing anything inappropriate, which means to even enjoy the game, you'd have to verify anyway, but maybe I'm just paranoid. I wish we had a better way of doing this without ID usage. This feeling was expressed throughout the entire solution finding process. No one was able to figure out a proper solution that wouldn't involve an official form of identification. While I do understand that a government ID is very sensitive, the other ways of verifying, like a credit card, Steam account, or even as a paid DLC, wouldn't have made it feasible in the first place. Regardless of the method chosen, some form of personal information would have been needed, since it could have potentially more uses, like VRChat's creator economy. At the moment, this is all speculation, but the way that I see it is that while VRChat's team has said that the only purpose for age verification was for content gating, I was talking to a friend about it, and he made a good point. This age verification system could potentially play a role in VRChat's creator economy in the future. For instance, if an individual would be making a decent amount of money, then they would have to personally declare any revenue obtained from the game. This is usually known as KYC, or Know Your Customer. Businesses need to have such system in place to prevent fraud, which would make sense in this context. At the end of the day, VRChat is not your enemy. They are actively working to make your experience better. Like I said earlier, I personally do not want to share the same space as someone that's underage, and with this feature, my experience will be much better, including those who stop playing for this exact reason. More people will go into public instances rather than staying stuck in private instances. We live in an era where our information is taken from us without being aware. Our phone listens to us constantly, gives us targeted ads, tracks our location, etc. Even without giving away our ID, every website you visit and or buy stuff, they sell that data to advertisers. Google most likely already have a profile of you, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be skeptical for businesses that takes our government identification. At the end of the day, you are free to choose if you want to go through the age verification process or not. You are not forced to do it, as the game will remain functional as it was previously. You decide to weigh the pros and cons of doing so. Using Roblox as an example was not the best choice by me, as they don't have a good track record. The main reason of pointing out the partnership was to show a familiar company that they've worked with, but Roblox has faced many controversies and lawsuits since its foundation, which I have linked below if you want to know more about it. They're not the only company that Persona has partnered with. You might know a couple of them on the screen right now, but I've also included their website that lists all companies that they've done business with. To wrap up this video, I want to thank all of you for watching the video in its entirety. After reading the comments left on my previous video, I understood that the community needed better clarifications on certain aspects of age verification and its usefulness in the current state of the game. Privacy is definitely a sensitive topic, and I try my best to outline the risks involved. I personally believe that this feature will benefit everyone in the long run, and the process will only get better and safer as time goes on. Parents definitely need to pay attention to their kids more and what they do on the platform, which I hope this video can help them understand the situation. At the end of the day, we just want to have fun in this unique game. If you have any other ideas on what VRChat could have done as verification methods or ways to improve community safety, please leave them in the comment below and I will read them all. Also, consider leaving a like and subscribing if you enjoy this type of content. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you all a happy new year.